Welcome to Prince Shorthand House, Kailash Chandra Volume 1, transcription number 7 and 8. I am going to dictate both exercises at the rate 80 words per minute. Be ready. Start. Now, I would like to say that with this measure we are now adopting, to my mind, it will not be possible to have this system or any other system functioning effectively. The number of clauses that we have included are so restrictive and rigid that it will not be possible for any system to function in this country. If at all it is able to function, it will be able to function with a lot of difficulties. It will be said afterwards that the industrial sector, particularly the private sector, has not been able to deliver the goods. I would like to warn the government that if anything happens in the future in which industrial production or production in the private sector has not gone up, it would not because of any lack of efforts on the part of the private sector, but because of the measure that we are now adopting. I have mentioned several times how this particular bill is very restrictive and how it will hamper the normal growth of companies in this country. It is a pity that when we are on the threshold of the 10th 5-year plan, such a measure should be passed in this house. I would now like to make a few observations about the speeches of some of the honorable members here. Shri Ashok Mehta justifies the restrictions on managing agents by saying that managing agents are no longer the main source of finance. He also argues that profits have been high and will continue to remain high, and therefore he would like to see the managing agents being paid on a sliding scale. He is in the habit of referring to a number of books and making quotations from a number of them published in America or in other countries, and particularly by some of the professors. I would also like to mention to him that even when companies are floated, it requires a certain amount of confidence among the investing public, and it is because a particular firm is managing a particular company that this confidence is created in the investing public. Even there, as the Honorable Finance Minister has said, there is a sort of overall tight control. New banks and insurance companies are not floated nowadays. What you have are the few banks which are existing and the few insurance companies that are existing. The other point is that the credit worthiness of the managing agency firm does count to a certain extent in getting credit from the banks and other financial institutions. Yesterday, it was mentioned by my honorable friend that the crux of the problem is the question of payment of remuneration to a particular managing agency system. He said that in this bill a definite encouragement has been given to the alternative type of management, namely the managing director or the manager, where an individual has been permitted to take 5%, while in the case of the managing agency it has been permitted to take about 10%. I would like to point out to him that it is not merely the question of remuneration which will decide the alternative type of management. The remuneration is not a very important thing. Unless and until you allow a certain amount of flexibility for any system to function, it will not be possible to evolve any other system to take the place of the managing agency system. In spite of so many shackles, you may find that those few business houses which are carrying on now may have to carry on the present basis. You may not find many new people coming in the field. Several times it has been mentioned in this house why the business community has not prescribed for itself a code of conduct. In this connection, I would like to point out that a degree or diploma is essential for the profession, and in case of violation of the code, sanction should be provided by it to prevent a person from practicing the profession. Today, even Ashok Mehta and Shri C.C. Shah can set up a grocery shop and become businessmen. Nobody lays down any condition for starting business, and nobody can prevent others from continuing it. But I would like to point out that with regard to the code of conduct, there is a certain amount of ethics, and there are certain standards and traditions on which business houses function. If a particular firm has not got proper ways of managing its business, you will find that the business house will find it difficult to function, and it would be difficult for it to command the confidence of the business community. It would not be possible for it to function as effectively as a firm which has proper ways of managing its business. That is sufficient as a code of conduct. It is not possible to prescribe a certain code of conduct in the manner it has been done for the profession in general. stop. Next, transcription number 8. Be ready. Start. In conclusion, I would like to say a word in regard to employment with which I have been dealing so far. According to the figures supplied, the number of displaced persons from Bangladesh employed through employment exchanges is only 37,000. This is very meager compared with their total number, which comes to 32 lakhs according to the official figures. This is with regard to Bangladesh refugees. The number of displaced persons from Pakistan employed through employment exchanges is not very encouraging, but still it is 75,000. I would urge upon the Honorable Minister to take this into consideration and see that something is done to find employment for these people. Of course, there is some expenditure incurred on general education and vocational training, but when we look at the number of persons who have been given vocational training, we find that the number already trained and under training is only 17,000. This figure also seems to be very small considering the magnitude of the problem before us. Some programs of general improvement have been undertaken by the Government of West Bengal by way of setting up new industries, etc. These programs should be looked into and put into operation with a view to giving more employment to these displaced persons. Within the limited time at my disposal, I shall limit my remarks to refugees from Bangladesh. The first thing which strikes one as one looks at the various brochures and publications that have been given to us is the amount of contradiction one has to battle against. The first contradiction is in regard to the number of persons government think they have rehabilitated in West Bengal. Granting that it is difficult to make a final assessment of the number of refugees who have come from Bangladesh, it is still true to say that at least there should be some sort of parity between what the Union Ministry says and what the West Bengal Rehabilitation Ministry says. Only a few days ago, the West Bengal Minister of Rehabilitation said that there are 22 lakhs of refugees who have to be rehabilitated, but the central government's figures are 31 lakhs. Unless the government know the number of people they have to budget for, it is rather bewildering to know how they mean to plan in bringing about their rehabilitation. As a matter of fact, many other sources believe that the figure is far higher, but in any case, there should be some parity and some idea as to the extent of the rehabilitation problem which still remains before the people of West Bengal. The other contradiction is this. On the one hand, Shrimati Renuka Rai says that in the near future they will be making a successful completion of the work of economic rehabilitation of refugees in that state, but only last year Shri A.P. Jain said that as yet the problem of the displaced persons from Bangladesh was a matter which was giving some concern. I really do not understand why, in spite of Shri A.P. Jain recognizing that the problem is still quite serious, Shrimati Renuka Rai should have made such a statement. Yet, when we heard the Honorable Finance Minister, we find that there has been a big shortfall in rehabilitation budget. I think that if the fact-finding committee's report had been published, the assessment that we have rehabilitated about 50% of the people of Bangladesh who came over as displaced persons would have become quite clear in regard to its incorrectness. As a matter of fact, when we went around the campus and colonies in West Bengal, we found that as yet not more than 15% of the people have been rehabilitated in the sense that they are able to eke out in their subsistence on the poorest levels. It is not more than 15%, and I think the figures of the fact finding committee are still lower. I think this is something that we have to take very seriously and put our minds to and apply all the resources that we have to find out how we will be able to tackle this problem of rehabilitation. Now, coming to the question of relief, I feel that until we are able to give really proper rehabilitation, we cannot withdraw relief. It is no use arguing whether relief leads to lethargy and moral slackness. Unless our rehabilitation policies are fruitful, have we any right to starve the people to death? As a matter of fact, Shri A.P. Jain may know that in West Bengal, the incidence of tuberculosis amongst the refugee population is very high. Only a small percentage of them is catered by for the medical relief given by the Directorate of Rehabilitation. If I am to tell you the tragic fate of the refugees in West Bengal, I would refer you to a report which appeared in February 2004. Stop.